Let's begin. Okay, 1, 2.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Oat Milk Lesbians. And as you can see, this is a long-awaited episode that we promised you guys like a long time ago because we were going to get a proper astrologer to come on here for Astrology Part 2.
Yeah.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
no wonder it's part 2. I was
Yeah.
who did the first part?
We just did it ourselves, it was so shallow.
We did it ourselves and we played a game and we were like, I hate Gemini. She was like, I hate Capricorn. That's all you're doing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so
I love
it's very
that.
shallow. It's
Okay.
very shallow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we felt like our audience because the queer community really dabbles in like more serious astrology.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for us just to leave them hanging at, okay, yeah, we hate Geminis.
Yeah.
No.
I know that. Gemini gets a lot of hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, yeah. Hello everyone. I am Shahir. I'm an astrologer at Suprasensory Shahir. I would call myself a love devotee mystic. I call myself a professional astrologer, obviously, but my first love in divination was actually tarot. So I was like a tarot reader first, and then I became like a full-fledged astrologer in the process together. And then I also become like a spiritual healer. Now I'm like, I do Reiki and stuff like that. And now I'm like fully doing spiritual healing on the side as well.
Okay.
I realize that a lot of people who do like astrology are also tarot readers.
Yeah, that's usual.
It's like a very spiritual thing.
It's usually like it's either or. You start the astrology and then you use tarot because I think it's more prominent out there. It's like some people vibe with tarot more just because it's cards. Like for me, like they are different in the sense that like astrology is the stars, like but then I think tarot has a sort of like immediacy to it that you're like, okay, I'm answering through the cards.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like, at least for me, I only had one reading and it was by Nikki.
Oh my god, I love that. I love Nikki.
Yeah, but it was so good. Like I was
Yeah.
really impressed because I think he did tarot and also a bit of astrology for me. I think astrology is more about you learn about yourself, but tarot is more like your situation.
Yeah.
Like
But then
the
astrology can also use for like your year ahead predictions and things like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's what I mainly do now, like birthday readings.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, because right now there's a transit going on, right? It's like Venus is in Scorpio or whatever. So that would be like sort of, the vibe. So we're filming it during Capricorn season.
Okay, so as an astrologer, can you tell me why I cried last night?
Oh my god. It was a full moon.
Oh, okay.
Yesterday was a full moon.
Okay.
So during the full moon, because we believe that the moon rules emotions. So, and it was a full moon in Cancer. Actually, the moon is still. It's a watery full moon, girl.
You know my moon sign, right? Wait, is
No,
it
I don't
supposed
know.
to guess?
I don't know. I don't know your
I
moon
think
sign.
you can guess like later.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a full moon in Cancer yesterday, literally. I mean, the moon is still in Cancer. So, but the fullness has dissipated a bit. Yeah.
No wonder I didn't cry that much today.
Damn.
I fucking cried like 3 times yesterday.
Oh my
That was
god.
like the peak.
Yeah, that was peaking. It was really peaking yesterday. I had to cancel a client just because I was like, I'm feeling a lot. And I was like, because sometimes I do that. I'm like, I'm feeling a lot. I didn't think it would be the best for me to do a reading for you right now,
Right.
And then she was like, all right, that's fine. Like, let's just reschedule. Yeah. So yeah, it was a full moon in Cancer.
That explains.
Yeah, so whenever there's a full moon, it's usually like, there's always a sort of like, the tension in our chart gets, it's kind of like, it pulls the chart a bit. So wherever you have Cancer as a sign, that will like really pull it. Yeah.
Shit.
So it depends on where Cancer is located in your chart.
Damn.
They are learned.
So that's more like transit astrology, just like the movement of the stars right now as we're speaking.
What got you into this career? Like
Oh
you
my
said that you found
God.
that love in New York.
Yeah, what got me into spirituality or like tarot and stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, I started off like very much just personality thing,
Oh, okay.
because I was always like, I knew I was like this is the sign, and then and sometimes I like to answer it to people that, how did I got into all of this? It's trauma. It's trauma, baby.
It's always trauma.
It's always trauma.
No.
So I was like going through a lot in my life, and then I was like, I need to find an avenue that makes a meaning out of something bigger. And then I was just like, if not, I would have been gone from this life, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and then at that point I was like, I need to find something that works for me. And then and then that's why I came to tarot, and then it really reflected my life. I cried during my first 2 tarot readings. I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been going through. But then, and then I was also picking up astrology online. So I honestly learned astrology purely through YouTube astrologers teaching.
Damn.
And then I picked up books. And then I was involved in like more community classes. I had an astrology teacher, Sabrina, Monarch, Kelsey, a few more. Like so I now I'm kind of like, because I'm a practitioner, so the thing of being an astrologer is that you're also constantly learning.
Yeah.
Because you just take different courses, you learn different techniques. So yeah, so I think, yeah, it really shape-shifted my life. Because I was in grad school before this, I actually applied to my grad school, and I had a feeling I will get in because I was like, the stars said so. I have this sort of like activation in my education house.
Damn.
I think I'm gonna get my master's, you know. I'm like, so it kind of like the things were aligning, and then I have like greater faith in it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because at that point I was also like very miserable at wherever I was in terms of my job, life, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Are you like a full-time now with like?
Honestly, it's just by circumstances. Just because I was like, So it's a funny thing. I came back here now just because I wanted to help my parents out a bit and kind of like just find what I really want to do after.
Yeah.
But then just because I have this thing that has been going on throughout my like student life, basically. So when I was a master's student, this is kind of like my bread and butter, like supporting my life, partly my groceries and stuff. And so that's why now I can like, I'm kind of like doing full time, although I wouldn't say like, by my standard, it would be like, oh my God, my income is not like full time yet, you know, but now you can always get more because it's kind of like gig-ish stuff. But yeah, so this year has been a lot of just doing that. Yeah.
Damn, okay.
Yeah.
I want to like go back to like the whole trauma thing. Maybe that's why the gays are always like super into astrology. Because we're like, fuck religion, right?
Yeah.
So we need something else to cling on to, which is, you
that's
know,
true.
that.
Yeah, because and people, even people like believe in something bigger. You know, I think that is kind of like needed, in like believing in something that you belong to something. Sort of like, you know, I think that's what astrology gives you. It kind of like, oh my God, I am a Gemini, you know, for example, I am a whatever. And it gives this sort of like belonging. And also it's like whenever you're going through a hard stuff, you're kind of like, oh yeah, the stars were saying that this wouldn't be the best year or something. Yeah.
No, I believe that too. Yeah, it just like feels like a sense of community.
Yeah.
With queer people.
Yeah, no, all the gays love it. I like, if it's like you're asking everyone's like what their sun, moon, and rising is, and
yeah, they just know it. And every gay wants a tarot reading. Like, literally, that's just something we always want.
Of course, who doesn't want a tarot reading to ask about our love life or the lack thereof?
So real. Guess our signs.
Oh my God!
That's too quick. That's a bit quick.
Oh my God.
Do you think you can guess it right now? Or
Just a little bit more conversation, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I might not get everything right. No, it's usually it's like but I can do it.
You
Let me
okay?
just.
Now?
Do you
Or
want
later?
to talk more, or do you want to?
Yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit more.
Okay.
But I don't know whether the accuracy. Let's just do it.
Okay.
Okay, let me just pull up a chart. So this is also an astro tip. So I'm like using astrology to assist me, maybe.
Okay.
All right, so I have a feeling that you're Scorpio or something like, okay, you must have a Scorpio sign
Okay.
or like water sign or something. You might have some sort of like Pisces or Taurus or Cancer. Like I think yours is harder to guess. So yeah, but you must be like water. So you have water, probably like Scorpio or Cancer, or you might be like Taurus or maybe like a Pisces. I don't know. You're a bit hard to like decipher.
Yeah, because we just met, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have to reveal the answer now, or do we want to do it at the end?
We
where
can
you
do it at the end.
Okay, we'll do it at the end.
We can do it at the end.
And you get like a second try after our conversation. Okay.
Okay. what is your spirituality currently, and like what connection do you feel it has to do with your work?
Oh my god, I love that question. I think when I first started, I call myself a love devotee because of a lot of reasons. One of it is like because I'm a queer Muslim. I consider myself like a queer Muslim. I very much identify with it, and then I was like, I align more of like the Sufism sort of like line of like God is love in a way, and the universe is love, and so that's kind of like my current spiritual practice. So everything that I do, I'm like devoted to love. And what's funny was that like after years of like discovering that I call like myself a love devotee, so whatever I do, it's basically like whenever I was doing tarot, I was actually when I was doing tarot, I was doing lots of love readings to the point where I got annoyed by it because I was like, I don't want to do love readings anymore.
That's what everyone asks though. They're always like asking about their relationships and shit.
Yeah. But even astrology right now, love reading is one of my forte, but I do it more seasonally. So whenever like the Venus is like in Libra or Venus is in a good sign, I'll put out that like, okay, this is my seasonal offering. But yeah, so I call myself a live devotee, and kind of like my spirituality is based on that. So everything, so Sufism, it's very much debated in like a larger, what's the real definition of it, but it's basically like the mystical path. Even on Instagram, I put there like I'm a queer Muslim mystique. That's just like everything is love is everything sort of like path for me.
Do you have religious trauma?
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Who doesn't? And that's how I got into astrology and stuff too, because I was like, I was contending with God and my queerness, and I was like, God made me queer, but God doesn't love. I'm like that doesn't fucking add up, right? And then there's actually a movement even internationally where even locally too, like lots of like queer Muslim really identifying like even like if we're talking about like the religious scriptures, right? Who are the ones interpreting them? Those are usually more like cishet men in power with their patriarchal ideas and stuff like that. So there's always like a sort of like a movement that is like, hey, like actually you can read it in multiple ways, right? Because it's like, for me, it's like diversity is also part of like what God created, you know? It's like there's diversity is like also the creation sort of like idea, you know? If we're going there, sort of like, so for me, it's like, I'm very comfortable now. It took me years and years to arrive there, because like, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, you know, it's like, I love praying in some ways, but at the same time, like, but this part of me is not included. So it's like, so it doesn't add up. So at some point I was like, it's okay. Like I'm fine with being different, and it might not be the majority belief system of it, right? People might even think I will go to hell, which if it exists, then yes, I would gladly, you know? So it's more of like that. So yeah.
Do you feel like that process of reclamation was hard?
It was hard, but it also made it easier in the sense of like, it was hard, but once you know it, it's like, oh wow, it feels easy. It means that like, I know that like, there is a sort of like a larger force that actually helps me rather than trying to like exclude me all the time, you know? So it's like, because for me, the idea of something bigger, like the universe, God, nature even, right, whatever have you, you want to collaborate with it. So I do believe in some sort of like, you are co-creating with whatever is around you constantly, So it makes me feel like more included in general.
I feel like it's quite interesting that you're able to, you know, like have your religion and at the same time do astrology and tarot and all of that. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think there's actually a revival even in the astrologer community where it's kind of like, there's a lot of like this. In the past, I think, okay, I don't want to romanticize so much of the past, but you know how like people say that like, oh yeah, we've had ancestors who had like a third gender, you know, people from indigenous culture and all. Like, so there's a lot of like this revival going on where they kind of like argue that like, hey, actually in the past, these things were okay. It's only like this sort of like progression of certain religion and ideologies that made it not okay, right? And like, how could those culture back then exist and they could accept people who are different and things like that, but not now, you know? So so for me it's like, so sometimes I do think a lot about like, oh yeah, so there could be some sort of like stories in the past which was sort of like erased, or maybe they weren't imaginative enough and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of our past was very like colonized.
Yeah. Yeah. The colonized past. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it sucks because like we can't actually learn it properly in history books because they erase that stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't want people to know like our history from a very objective and factual point of view because I guess they're just afraid that we ever had this kind of past, and they identify so much with the current colonial system, like whether it's the British penal code or even, you know, any of the laws that they currently impose on people. From different cultures.
Even
So,
like macam like for example for us, right, like I remember like we learn about sejarah books and we learn about like, oh, people believe in animism, and it's almost like animism. And it's almost like it's like a derogatory thing or something. It's like it's like an ancient thing where in fact animism is still very much alive. They actually they work with nature. They collaborate with trees. They know what's the purpose of like each tree or each stone. It's like they are looking at life in a very different way. It's not like, oh, I worship this cave, you know, but no, they make it sacred in a way too.
For real, like I remember when I studied history back then, I really didn't like how they were like putting all these nuances in, you know, basically animism, and they would say it's like, oh, zaman jahiliya, like our dark past. And it's like, bro, that was you and your ancestors. How could you say that? Like,
truly.
Everything was colonized. And it's just really shitty that, like, you know, even when you take exams and everything, they condition you to answer the questions in their own beliefs. You know, rather than like, okay, this was our past, and it's not a good or a bad thing. It was just our past. You know, whether if someone still wants to adopt it, it's like really their own decision. You know, it shouldn't be something that gets a label.
No, truly, I 100% believe in that. I love that.
Yeah, we have lots of religious
we do.
Oh my god, how's your
Fuck that. We're both out of the religion.
Okay,
like,
that's good. That's good. Maybe it's part of your path too. Like
That's why I found it really interesting why you could still have your religion and do tarot and astrology.
I think it was really hard to get there, but at the same time, I'm also such a person that like if you tell me I can't do it, then I want to do it. It's it's like, okay, I'll you don't believe that's possible, then I will live the impossible.
Yeah, you know, that's actually something I noticed about queer Muslims. Like, a lot of them find it impossible that people find it impossible. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like, so what? I'm real. You know? And honestly, like, that's so admirable because I feel like, well, at least like both of us, we find it very hard to reconcile with Christianity because like both our families were Christians and they were like religious. So like not in a good way. And it was really traumatizing, like as an upbringing, not just to our sexuality, but just like in general being women.
So, even to this day, I think even to this day for me is like I wouldn't say like my family fully accepts it, but it's more about like, hey, I know this is who I am. It's more about like, that's the thing as well, like even in certain, it's like there are certain people who really believes that like religion is something supposed to be personal rather than like you're not imposing on any other person. So to some degree, I really love my parents because they do kind of like agree in that, like because they do believe that at the end of the day, it's like, it's your thing, you know, it's kind of like, although they would be like, I don't want you to go to hell, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's your path sort of thing. So in a way, they are respectful in terms of that. Like at first, like when my parents started like knowing, I was like, you're an astrologer? Or like I was like a crystal hoarder. Like if you enter my room, I was like, what's going on here? What ritual, what witchcraft are you doing, right? And all this idea of like Shahir or like like all the like bad connotations of things. And I'm like, I'm just living. Like I'm just like, I just love my crystals. Like I just love my rose quartz to manifest or something like that. So it takes a while. But I can see how like if you come from a very like sort of like, you know, a very dogma, like, but I can still see it in terms of like the sort of like judgment from like the external, not like my core family, but like the extended family, right? So those are like, I'm like, they don't know my life, I don't know their life, I don't even care, you know?
I feel that like I'm okay being the black sheep.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine with me.
I know,
You
I
guys live
know,
your
and
life.
like it takes a while. It takes a while to being to like just being
Yeah.
okay to being the black sheep. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I don't know, because also like I have relatives who regularly go to church and everything. I'm pretty sure they've ran into the podcast as well, and
I
they've seen the things I've said.
see. Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, that's not my truth. Like, that's fine. If you guys want to see me a certain way, you can. But like, I'm not cishet, and that's your world. This is mine.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like, I think as long as we don't bother each other, like I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I have that relationship with my parents. Like obviously they're upset that I don't go to church anymore and I don't want to believe, and I'm like very anti the religion.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also not very forceful. Like they wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna send you to camp or like
Yeah,
therapy to
the
change,
conversion. Yeah.
you know, and everything. So that's fine with me. So
Yeah.
if my relatives can do the same too, like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but oh my god, truly. But like at the same time, like, you know, for example, for me, I still go to like Friday prayers from time to time. I mean, religiously, now that I've been listening back, and then sometimes they bring up LGBT as some sort of social issues. I get so fucking triggered. I want to get the fuck out of this mosque. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'll be like, oh my god, okay. Oh, I must be like, whoa. Like, so sometimes you do get like very rattled up in a way, right? But then you're like, it's okay. This is part of the institutionalized sort of like ideologies in some ways too. Yeah. And then it's hard because it's like the institution controls the society, right? And it's kind of like the societal perception, and it's really just about like, it's whether the individual or the family or whatever is like brave enough to like, okay, we'll just do our thing or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's like really admirable that you could still stay there.
No, oh my
Like,
god, there will
honestly,
be
I'll be like,
there'll
I'm
be
done.
certain points I'll be like, oh my god, this is why I need to be. It's like they'll be saying like, yeah, obviously they're like sometimes certain khutbah, right? There will be like those like anti-LGBT ones. So yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like in church, my pastor, like back then when I still went to church, he would just like, I'm pretty sure he knew I was gay at the time, so he would just like throw shade in sermons and everything. I'm like, I am not having it. Like I know he's talking about me. I don't give a fuck.
Oh my god.
Because there's no one else who's queer in the
see.
church. Like they're either elderly, like in a nuclear family or something like that. So it's like, it's obviously me.
Oh
Is your church small?
Yeah, it's a small church.
How small is it? Is it
20
like those
people
shop-
type.
20
Oh wow.
people?
Okay, that's
Oh, it's
really
definitely
small.
Big as
like,
your studio.
directed at you.
Yeah, it was directed
It was
at me, right?
definitely
Like ain't
directed at
nobody
you.
else was gay
Oh
in the
my
whole community. So
god.
I was
Okay,
like,
that's very personal. That's a personal
Yeah.
attack. Oh my
It's
god.
a personal attack.
Yeah.
And it's like even though right now I'm not in the church anymore and I can be like, okay, you know, that's just him, that's his beliefs, like fuck him and everything. But like obviously at the moment I'm just like, I'm never coming back.
Yeah.
You guys make me feel so unsafe and like so
Yes.
invalidated. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why it's so hard to reconcile, because like for me, a big part of believing in something also matters when I'm in the community. And like I know some people like they're like, okay, I can detach from the community and I can like just, you know, practice on my own, but I just cannot. I'm
Cannot,
like,
yeah.
Everyone in the community is treating me a certain way. It makes me
Yes.
feel like
Yes.
I don't belong here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, I get it. You know, sometimes I mean, I'm not wearing it today. It's so funny. I have pierced earrings, right? So sometimes I do wear my pierced ear to like to the mosque, and I'm like, I'm like, oh my god, I'm very conscious of people looking at me.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, okay, I don't want that sort of attention, and sometimes I remove it, and then so it's like, but then sometimes I'm just like, whatever the fuck, I was coming from an event, I was just like, yeah. So it's a very, I don't know. Sometimes like I don't want to be living that way, but that's like the reality, right? It's like, what are the limits that I'm willing to like play around with? Or sometimes I also realize like the less conscious I am about it, I'm just like, yeah, I can detach myself. I'll be like, my mom be like, whatever the fuck is going on. I'm just here for one purpose and it's mine.
Yeah. No, that's good. Like,
It's a very radical thing to just like do it, right? For me, like, because I want to be here.
There's power in that, like,
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, there really is. Like when queer people reclaim their religion, I think there's so much power in it.
Yeah.
They're really doing God's work.
Truly.
Like
Truly.
I cannot be like that, but like, damn, you guys are really doing like so much.
It takes a lot to
takes
do
a
that.
lot.
It really takes a lot to do that.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, wait, I do have a question though, because like for me, right, I don't believe in like like the Christian God,
Uh-huh.
but I believe in the universe. So
Yeah.
I personally feel like there is like one or the other, but in a sense also maybe there are kind of like one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I also sometimes interchange the use of like universe and God and like creator or like I mean, because I'm very much attuned to like the Sufi school, so sometimes it's like the Sufi mystics, they're very like, because I'm a love devotee, we call like some sort of like the lover or the beloved. There's a sort of like intimacy with God that your idea of it. So yeah, for me, I use it interchangeably because sometimes I view the universe as like you know how people will say like God is like a he, right? But I don't usually God as a he, right? For me, I'm like, it's like whatever, she, they, whatever, right?
she,
It's
they,
like she, they, them, or whatever. But like, for me, it's more about like, yeah, like even the universe, right? Like I do see like the earth, like the mother, like, you know, I do see, even in astrology, we actually believe that the universe is kind of like the mother because the universe started, there's a chart in astrology, which is kind of like the chart of the universe, which begins with Cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, it's called the Thema Mundi. So if you want to look it up, it's called the Thema Mundi. It's kind of like that's the birth of the universe, and it begins with a very sort of like quote unquote feminine origin because it's a sign of Cancer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like the moon is the one that started it all, and then there's like Cancer, Leo. So that's how it was like. So rather than like, you know, I mean, obviously when we talk about zodiac season, we talk about like Aries, you know, and then Taurus, Gemini, etc. But then the Thema Mundi is really, it's sort of like even some people, even a lot of astrologers who are like spiritual, like it's kind of like a very, it's a very spiritual chart for some people because it's kind of like if you believe in the beginning of existence, that's kind of like the primary chart that you use to kind of like, okay, that was the beginning of everything, sort of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why it makes sense that you say the universe and stuff like that too. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
This is really astrology part 2. Not the fuck Gemini's, fuck Capricorn. Stop.
Yeah.
Damn.
God.
Okay, so like now back to Earth.
Back to Earth. Back to Earth.
What would you say are like the best times and also the challenges of being an astrologer, like in the
Oh
local
my
community
God.
and also in your experience?
Okay. I think the best. I do think that like giving a reading and then like see their like faces like light up and you're like, they're like, oh my God, you read my chart.
They're
Like,
psychic.
I know. Like, I think for example, I can give an example of my client today. I'll be like, oh yeah, like I have a feeling that this year there's something going on in your career. Are you going abroad? And then he will be like, he's like, where did you see that? And I'm just like, I see the pattern. I was like, so I was like, so I think I love seeing that sort of like moments where you know, someone just like light up whenever you talk about their charts. It could also be a point where it's just feeling validated by who they are. I mean, some people come to a reading and they feel very much like they feel some type of way, and then they're like, I don't know what's going on in my life is in shambles or whatever. And then they come to me and then I'll be like, all right, like I can see how this is hard for you, right? You know, it's kind of like Saturn, for example. Saturn is a very harsh planet, especially for certain charts. People who are born at night, you should fear Saturn. I mean, I don't know whether you're born at night or day, but no, you shouldn't fear Saturn. Saturn is like in astrology, Saturn is one of the malefic. So it's kind of like representing a force that is a bit difficult. So it's like it rules hardship, it rules karma in some ways as well. It rules a sense of depression as well in life. So whenever some people come to me and they sort of like explain to me their life, and then I was looking at their chart and I'm like, okay, you're having this sort of like Saturnian activation. So maybe in the next 3 years of your life,
You'll be depressed.
you will be depressed very severely, and maybe this year will be like the most of it, right?
Oh my God.
And then the next year will be like better and slightly better, and I can see how like, okay, I can see how things improve. But I've also had instances where I'm like, I don't know if I can give you good news. However, like I wouldn't like just leave them off like that, right? I'll be like, okay, so what would be supportive for your chart? So I even in a session, I do some sort of like, we call it remediation, meaning that it's like, okay, certain parts of our chart are gonna fuck us up, right? And those things where you can't escape it, you kind of run away from it, right? but then what parts of your chart that would actually help you to fulfill, like to give you the positive. So sometimes I focus on a positive part that like, okay, maybe this areas of life could help you go through this sort of like the more, in okay, this is the thing with astrologers. Sometimes we might seem a bit like, not to say less empathetic, but I really do care. But in astrology, sometimes there's value judgment, but there's also no value judgment. Meaning that yes, Saturn is a difficult planet, but it's also like a planet that wants you to teach you something about yourself. Because Saturn is kind of like the idea that for you to become like a diamond, like the most prized like jewel, like a diamond, for example, you need to be crushed. Like to become like diamond, but it's like I want a soft life, It's like I don't want to be crushed, You know what I'm saying? But then it's like, but it's either like it will work for you, but it will also work against you, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like an astrologer. Sometimes I can be very like, okay, yeah, like I can see how you're going through a very difficult time, but at the same time I'm like, what are you learning from it? Like what insights about your own life that you are discovering, right? Because once you're being pushed down to the max, the only way is up. Like
that's a good way to see it.
You're just like So for me, it's like helping people. Like I mean, I do have a natural inclination to like sort of like help my clients, and even that's why I started doing tarot.
Yeah.
Because of how it was personally sort of like transformative for me, because I was going through like religious trauma, queerness, sort of like confrontation, and then I found out that like my chart has like a very, okay, this is a very debatable, but you can see a queer sign as well.
Oh.
There's a certain condition in the chart that will make you a bit of an outlier in terms of your gender / sexuality and things like that.
Oh,
I want to know.
Yeah.
No, I'm most interested in that.
Yeah, so there's actually like a lot of people who are doing that sort of like research. I mean, it's been years going on. I mean, because astrologers are kind of like independent researcher as well, but because like even in my form of my booking form, I usually would ask, are you LGBTQ? And just like if people can just answer yes or no, something like that. And usually it's pretty much established that you can see some sort of pattern.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so interesting.
So actually for my chart, I would have been such a miserable straight man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so the charts, I was looking at them, I'm like, your chart is not meant to be straight. Like, your chart is super gay, super queer, So yeah, so it's a thing.
God.
Yeah.
What is it?
I mean, you have to really look at the chart, but generally you look at the Venus. So Venus is the principle of attraction.
Yes.
So if anything is going on with the Venus, that makes the Venus a bit of an outlier. So that could be like, because Venus is kind of like what you're attracted to, but also what your personal sort of like attraction is. So we look at Venus to kind of like see more like gender, I would say more sexuality-ish sort of attraction. But also I would say sexuality / Venus could also be gender expression, because it's kind of like your personal style as well. And then we look at your Mercury, because your Mercury actually is a planet that rules the non-binaries and the queer, because Mercury is kind of like, it's in classical term, right? The planet Mercury is kind of like the hermaphrodite. So it's kind of like the one that goes in between gender.
Right.
So it's very non-binary for Mercury. Yeah. And for people who are more sort of like trans, usually there would be more, there's something going on with the Saturn in the chart. Because Saturn does represent people who transition or moving across. But it's like, for me, it's like mixture. Like you do have to look at it in totality, right? You can't just look at just one planet, but there's usually like a mixture that's happening in the chart that's like, okay. Like, for example, your Venus could be like, in a classic way, for example, like someone's Venus is in Aries or in Scorpio. So that makes you naturally, the things you're attracted to would be against society. So that's like but that doesn't mean that you're definitely gay, you know what I'm saying? It's like, although it's a very gay Venus, basically. But it's like, I mean, some people with Venus and Scorpio, even though they're cis-het, whatever, they might have a very like taboo sort of like very out, like the way they attract, it might feel that they're outsider a bit.
Bestiality.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's get it.
So yeah, so basically there would be certain placement, but then
Right.
I wouldn't say that, okay, that's a very simplistic view of it, but actually certain arrangement as well. It's kind of like, oh, you do have Venus in the sign, but then you have also Mars configured to it or something like that. So it's usually like a mixture of things. Yeah.
Okay, I'm really interested in that.
I'm so interested
I just
now.
want to show you my
Yeah.
chart.
Yeah, I would love to look at it
my
and see which
Yeah.
pattern, because I've done lots of queer, like LGBTQ sort of like clients that I was like, we love your chart is super gay, and like that's why, you know, yeah. So there are certain orientation of the chart that makes it operate in such way that like, okay, this chart cannot function in sort of like a cis-het normal imposition kind of way. So
No.
by you being slightly different, right, like by you be differentiating yourself from the collective, it is actually to your advantage. Yeah. Yeah.
Shit, I'm so interested now. You know, this is the first time I'm hearing that like your chart can, like, people can tell if you're queer. from your
Damn.
chart.
Yeah, I
love
would say like
it.
it is still a bit like, even in astrology community, some people say that it's debatable, but it's actually proven historically. Even there's a historical archive that says that, like, especially the Saturnian, especially the Saturn and the Mercury, there is a sort of like a historical archive of astrologers in the past, in the medieval times, that says that, like, yeah, people who have this configuration, they would tend to have some sort of like, at some point in their life, they might kind of like question their gender or something like that, and they might transition or something. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Interested.
We're gonna like go into another loophole after we go back tonight.
Oh my god, yeah. We were just
Our
talking
research.
until 3 a.m. last night because
Yeah.
we went into a loophole about existential crisis and
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay. Okay.
But we're gonna do that again
Yeah, we're
tonight.
gonna do that again.
Oh my god.
3
I
a.m.
love
we're gonna go to
that.
sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Oh my god.
I call it like a queer. I call it like more like a LGBTQ, or like more like a queer signature in the chart, basically.
Yeah. You know what happened to us today? Our friend told us that, like, if you look at your fingers, you can actually tell
Yeah.
if someone is gay.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
now you're
how?
telling this. Well, it's mostly for like sapphics, I feel. Like, let's say if your ring finger is higher than your index finger,
Yeah.
then like
You are a homosexual. And then we all looked at our hands, we're like, oh my god,
God, we
we're
are
lesbian.
Oh my god.
and you're telling us this right now. It's like, wow, there
Yeah.
are things that sometimes you don't even realize that proves that you're gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It
there's
helps
so
you.
many things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, and it's just things that you're born with, you know?
Yeah, you're
like
Exactly.
your hands,
Right.
Yeah.
your chart.
Your chart. Yeah. You were
Yeah.
born for it. Yeah.
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 Oh my god.
Yeah, no.
This is being gay is not a choice.
no, for real.
The stars choose me. I have to follow the path. You know.
Oh my god, I love
Shit.
that.
Yeah, I love that. Wow, I'm so intrigued.
Yeah.
So, like, what would you say are the biggest challenges with, you know, your career?
I would say okay, just because like pop astrology is very famous.
Yes.
So I think sometimes, but you know, I'm like whatever with it. Sometimes I also have fun with it, like whenever
Yeah.
people do videos. So I would say like sometimes the challenge would be like misinformation
Yes.
and all those things. And I think, you know, because astrology has gotten really famous in the past, like if you look at astrology apps, like even in the West, like the number of astrology apps has been increasing. Everyone wants to be like a founder of an astrology app
Right.
or whatever. And there's a question of whether, okay, are they even real astrologers working behind the scene, right? Actually, I remember there was a time amongst astrologers where CoStar was getting the shit
Yeah.
because they were not employing real astrologers.
Right,
They
right.
were just like churning out like literally like a writer in their writer room and just like churning out like almost an AI-ish, but like there's a human behind it, sort of like creating it. But then like because of the backlash, then they employ astrologers and things like that. So it's kind of like astrology has gotten so famous that sometimes I feel like, oh my god, like is this like because of the pop, like I don't think I can make great pop astrology content because I don't think that's my niche, right? But then it's like I still want to educate. So but sometimes like the biggest hurdle would be like, okay, how do I make it interesting enough so that people listen to it? And then but for me that would be like just like a general challenge for a lot of people if you're trying to get somewhere and like trying to educate the public. So I would say like sometimes misinformation or like a lot of that, and sometimes people say that, oh my god, well for example, people have Venus in Scorpio or Aries, it's not the best place for Venus. Like, let's be honest, like in traditional astrology, that would be like, oh my God, there could be some sort of like experience in your love life which might not be the best. Like that, right? But then you don't want the people to say that like, oh wow, like it's fucked forever. Like so you don't want people to get into this sort of like fatalistic view of astrology, which sometimes I get why sometimes you research online and you're like, oh wow, like, you know, people are writing it this way or people are saying this way. So yeah, it's like for me, like sometimes it's like part of the challenge is also like to make people recognize that like, yeah, you are who you are and you can work with your chart. Yeah, but other than that, it's like it's been a fun ride. Yeah,
but that's so true though. Like pop astrology is on the rise right now. And
it's like it's feeding the algorithm and people love it, right? It's like you say that like, oh my God, these are the the top signs that are so unlovable, and people will be like,
yes,
am I?
Gemini.
yeah.
You know, and then those are like the kind of things that people will be like, I want to know, and then it also sometimes would help them because it validates their experience. I'm like, I mean, I've dated Cancers before, and I know Cancers are usually like very bad for my chart. but then it's like, if I were not an astrologer, I'd be like, oh my God, like I keep getting all this Cancer men, ew, you know? And then like I see like a ranking of like, oh my God, like, you know, those are like Cancer men is one of like the no. Especially if you're straight or whatever, like don't date a Cancer man or whatever, they will manipulate you and stuff like that. So so those are like sometimes one of those things.
Damn. But that's so true. You know, like sometimes I feel like especially like when I watch on TikTok and everything, I feel like sometimes I can sense like some biases in some astrologers, which when I go through their profiles, I'm like, I don't think they actually even properly do astrology. They're just kind of like doing things for the views. Like, oh, by the way, if you're an Aries, like in a few days you're gonna be this and that. But I'm like, I don't think that is entirely accurate.
That's also like difficult sometimes too, because like it's like I can see how like astrology is famous to sort of like become some sort of like a propellant to something, right? So maybe someone is just like, you know, I'm not co-signing this practice, but like some people will say that like, oh, I'm more of like an intuitive astrologer. But what does that mean, right? It's like it just means that you use your intuition. Then why do you call yourself an astrologer if you just use intuition? Like you do have to have some sort of like a technical background, right? In a way of like, okay, where are you seeing it deriving from, right? For example, like right now Jupiter is in Taurus, so a lot of people with Taurus placement, they might be getting some sort of new blessings in their life, especially throughout this year. And then like, so some people, like whenever they produce that, they actually have like a sort of like astrological basis for it. So even I, as a person who consumes it, I'd be like, oh, because I'm like, I know what's going on as well. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how that plays out like that, right? So so sometimes people just like, some people you can see where they're producing in such a way that like, how do you know this? Like this doesn't add up. Like something doesn't add up, you know?
Because it's like, let's say if like someone tells me like, okay, for example, full moon in Cancer or like the occurrences that will happen, like transits or anything, like as a consumer, I'm still more willing to be like, okay, like I see where you're coming from. But like, if they tell me based on like, oh, I'm just feeling like this is that, and I'm like I don't want to discredit you, but at the same time, like, I also want some credibility.
Exactly.
It's
so like
hard,
so rectifying that is like, that's why I think the misinformation and like sort of like you don't know really, like unless they have their own established practice as a professional astrologer. Some way I always just have caution whenever like certain pop astrology sort of content. There are certain pop astrology content. I have friends who are very much deep into the pop astrology contents, but they make very good memes. Like, that's why
I love those.
So those are usually people who create memes. Chances are they are very learned because they are usually like very aware of like, okay, this is the kind of humor that will get Virgos, or this is the kind of humor that will like, okay, this is very Gemini coded or Sag coded kind of thing. So usually people who create memes or those kinds, there are high chances that they are very learned into astrology.
That's so true, because like, you know, CoStar, they like to do this thing where they go on the streets and they're like asking, how was your dating life, blah, 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 blah. And then they will like guess your sign in the end. And like, from the questions they ask and like they're guessing, like I feel like they are pretty learned. They know something.
They know, they're trying to derive as like, okay, what's your attachment style? Right? Yeah. It's like, do you date around a lot, or like, are you just more waiting for people to come to you, or something like that? Yeah. So they are like, that usually uses some sort of like a astrological reasonings for it.
Damn.
It's so interesting.
But as an astrologer, I also see how like my practice also gets elevated by side effect, or because astrology is becoming more famous, then people are actually curious to actually get a reading. It's like if in the past, like getting a reading is like unheard of, but these days it's kind of like, oh yeah, I've gotten a reading, or at least I treated myself one, or during my birthday, or certain years, so. I've seen lots of like first time clients a lot where I'm like, oh, am I your first, like I was like, am I your first professional astrologer? And they'll be like, yeah, and I'll be like, right, this is time for me to shine.
No, that's so true. And I feel like the demand has always been there because, okay, for at least like, people and households that don't practice Abrahamic religions, like they tend to go to temples for readings and like birth readings, and like it's actually part of culture, like like when the kid is born, 10 days later they'll get a reading, something like that, and they will regularly go to see like what's in it for them for like maybe the near future or the far future. So like I feel like when people shame astrology, like don't you look back at all these things and think that for your parents and grandparents it was actually a norm too? It's just that
it's actually a norm. It's just a different form, right?
It's different form. It's just part of your culture. It's hard for you to disrespect it. But if you have like those tech bros and like finance bros, they'd be like, oh, it's bullshit and everything. But no, like your family used to do stuff like that too.
I mean, like for them to, I would always funny whenever like there's a finance bro like talk about it, because I'm like, you're also just looking at graphs. You're looking at correlation. We're also looking at the correlation between the stars.
Exactly,
you know how people like who do tradings and stuff, right? They're also like, they're just also doing a guessing game, so I'm like, who's wrong here?
Like for real. Oh my god.
So that's why I'm like, at least I'm also doing a pattern recognition, because I'm like, I'm looking at the skies, I'm looking at the stars arrangement. Actually, even in the astro community, there's a very specific niche called like it's more financial astrology. So it's actually using astrology to time your investment.
Damn. Okay, let's get into that. We're gonna get into that.
We're gonna get to the gay one, the investment one.
Oh my god.
So that would be a smart thing to do too. I mean, there are certain reputable. I feel like one day I want to be a financial astrologer, but not yet. We shall
that
see.
would be really cool, because I've never heard of a financial astrologer before.
It's. I think it's more famous in the West. I think in our culture, it's more like people just give general advice in terms of like general money advice, like okay, don't invest during this time. But then actually, there's like actually legit astrologers who actually like, they track certain movement or certain financial systems or something. So that would be like more like they are some sort of like a market analysis, but through the lens of astrology.
That's so fucking cool. Damn.
Astrology runs so deep.
So that's what I love about astrology and astrology community, because I went on Twitter, X now for sure, and I that's how I kind of started. And that's how I met Nikki too. And I mean we met we were on dating app first, but then that's how we knew that we both love astrology, because of that profile. I was like, oh my god, and at that time I was manifesting an astrologer friend.
Damn.
My manifestation worked. I was like, I'm so lonely in my astrologer practice. I need a bestie that knows astrology as I am. And then I found Nikki.
Damn.
And then, it's a thing. So in astrology community, I feel like we have so varied and diverse interests. So like, there are people, even in terms of astrology itself, right? There are astrologers who are more mundane astrologers, and those are kind of like the one, they actually predict geopolitical events. They kind of like, they look at like the world, they look at, okay, there must be a story coming from the West this upcoming month, or something like that. So that's more like mundane, that's looking at culture. There are people who looks at, typical stuff like love, financial. So it's like, for me, I love it because I'm like, oh wow, like everyone here they have their own interests, and somehow they merge it with astrology. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that. That is so interesting.
Yeah, so that's why for me too, like I'm like, okay, I love predicting love for stuff, and that's why love becomes some sort of like one of my mainstay, you know, or I love birthdays and
I didn't know there were like so many sectors in astrology.
There are so many. It's like there's natal, there's even a astrology to find your stuff. I always do it.
To find your stuff?
Like, okay, for example,
I lost my vape 2 months ago.
Okay, that's a while ago. Okay, but you lost your vape 2 months ago. Okay, and then
1 month
so
ago.
your month ago, and then the idea is I just pull a chart right now.
I'm gonna find my lost vape.
Your lost vape. Okay, no, I feel like your lost vape is lost.
No.
But maybe you'll find it in January. There's a possibility. So this is just a rough thing of it. So you might, you lost the vape, all right? So it's your second house, Pisces. So it might be lost forever. However, it could also be, you should check in one of your pockets. Like it could be in one, like a pouch or like a pocket or something. Like it could be like in a clothing. So that's how you do, this is a branch of astrology called horary astrology, where whenever someone asks you a question, your job and as astrologer, you just look at the chart of the moment and then you just decipher, where is the vape?
Where's the vape?
That's real.
Oh my god.
It's called horary astrology. It's more instantaneous, sort of like. I haven't. I'm not a horary astrologer, so please don't book me for horary because I haven't like been trained in it yet.
Yeah.
But I use it for my lost items a lot.
Does it work?
So it works all the time. Like I used to like sometimes I lose my glasses because I sometimes change my glasses a lot. And I was like, where the fuck is that glass? And then I just like, okay, relax. Just like breathe, and then I just open it, chart at the moment, and I'll be like, oh, it's really like I can see how like it's downstairs, or it's near a pile of clothing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I usually use it for lost stuff usually, but I've also done it to ask questions. It's like, it's like horary astrology is, I'm still training in it, right? So I have my own smaller group of friends, and sometimes they just ask me a question of like, oh yeah, like is this person blah 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 blah? And then I'll be like, I look at the chart and then I see like, okay, it could be a yes or it could be no, or it could be like more vague or something like that. Yeah. I've lost my wallet once and I found it through horary.
Wow.
And it was literally, I literally left it from where I was. Like I left it.
Oh shit.
At the place that I was at. And then even from there, I was so confident of it. I didn't pick it up for like 2 days because I was like, I think if I go too early, I was like, okay, if I go too early, I don't know, maybe that person wouldn't be stationed there, like the person who's keeping my thing. And then I went there like the day after. And then it was true because the person who was keeping it, like, he wasn't working on the next day.
Shit.
That's crazy.
So if I were to go like a day earlier, so there's something about astrology was like the moon was like moving. I was like, ooh, I might have to wait a day out because I feel like if I go today, I might not get it and I might just feel like so sad. You know, it's just like, and then I'll be like, okay, it's okay. I'll just wait the next day. So I actually went the next day and asked them like, hey, was there a wallet today? And then he was like, it's literally the person that was like, who found it. But then he kept it first because he doesn't want to like put it in the main area or whatever. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And it was so useful.
It's very useful. It's really useful. Like because I lose stuff a lot. That's why I use horary to find stuff. But I mean, there've also been cases where I did not find it. There've been cases where I've been like, it's kind of like, okay, maybe that's lost forever. And I lost a vape once, and it was also like something like that. Like, no, I lost my it's a weed vape like when I was in New York. Yeah, because they have like the THC ones. And then I was like, I really love that brand, and I was like, fuck, I'm pretty sure. And but then I was so sure that I actually threw it. I actually threw it in one of the trash somewhere. But I was just not. I don't know where it is. Yeah, but from the chart, I knew it was like, I'm not gonna recover this.
Wait, that's insane. This is my first time hearing about that.
Yeah, so that's a branch of astrology that's beyond natal. So the one that we're talking about, like our sun sign and stuff, that's natal astrology. And then there's mundane astrology. It's more like geopolitics. And there's this horary astrology. It's more about like answering questions. A lot of astrologers do that service. A lot of people who do natal, they might get into horary. because it's easy because it's kind of like your client asks a question, and then depending on the time where you opened up, when you open that reading up, then you're like, okay, now I use the astrology of the moment to answer that question.
Mm. Oh
Fuck
my
air tags.
God.
Literally.
Shit anymore.
Don't invest in your tax. Literally. Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, right. For
damn.
example, like I can tell if someone's gonna be late or not too. Like, yeah, because for example, I'll be like, okay, I'm waiting for someone, right? And then I'll be like, like I wonder if this person's gonna like. So that's how I used to train myself, right?
Right.
And then I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. I can see how like, okay, this person might be late a bit, so that's fine, you know? So it kind of like helps me out a bit. And so like I always use it like a very mini form of life lah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like even better than air tags because like you can tell when it will come. Like imagine your wallet, if you had an air tag, then it's like at someone's house. But like,
I know.
for this one, you can tell the time, like
Yes.
the right time to get it back.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's kind of like depending on the movement of the stars and things like that.
Oh my God.
I
That
mean,
is
people do it.
amazing.
People use horary a lot in terms of like. I mean, obviously, people sometimes ask the question of like, does this person like me or something like that? I actually have done it at parties though. I've done it at a party where I would pull a horary before I approach a person.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's like plus it depends on the efficacy of it. But yeah, like I would say, okay, I think there's a mutual attraction here.
Time to pick up astrology.
So yeah, so it's like it makes me just like it just makes me more confident, I guess. It's like it help. I mean, it can also just be a self-fulfilling prophecy thing. I'll be like, oh my god, then I'm like I knew I'm like very confident and approaching this person, and then like, I knew that this person kind of like would like me back as well. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it like I've also tried and error. And, like I've also seen that like, oh my god, like I feel like this person would reject me. Like it's almost literally a rejection, but I still did it anyway to try. But it was also true. I'll be like that person wouldn't want to like really respond or something like that. So I've done it like when I've been to like certain like events and like I was like, okay, this is like, should I hit up this person? You know, basically.
Wait, that's a really cool way to test it out.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, you can really use astrology for a lot of things.
You can use it. It's just a matter if you want to or not. And sometimes like, I mean, so this is where as a mystique, sometimes I do feel that like, I don't want to know, you know, I just want to I just want to flow with life. I don't wanna, so I think sometimes astrologers can get so hung up in astrology as well, in the sense that like, it's like the privilege of knowing, right? If like you know something, is it actually going to help you or is it going to like not going to help you?
Right.
Yeah.
Damn.
What a mind fucking game.
Do people ever ask you
It is a mind game.
Yeah.
Do people ever ask you things like, have I found my twin flame?
Oh my god.
Things like that.
I hate twin flame. Oh my god.
Yay! I hate it too. I don't believe it.
But I followed into the trap. Well, I mean, I wouldn't fall into the trap. I've entertained the idea, but then I don't think it exists just because, I mean, based on I honestly think some people really do believe in twin flame.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, maybe they're just meant to really go through shits with a person. So yeah, people have asked that. I mean, even in astrology readings, I've done like sort of like partnership reading, or we call it synastry. So to see whether your chart are compatible or not. When I first started out, I did not have like. So this is also like just based on your own personal ethics. For me, I would want a consent from the other party that you're actually doing a synastry. So it's kind of like, okay, if you have another person's chart and you are like, for example, I have like a partner, for example, someone I'm dating, but then I want to get a synastry reading, but this person will not be there. So if I have someone like that, I will always ask them like, is your partner okay with this? If they are okay with it, then I will do the reading. But then in the past, there was also like, when I first started out, because I was still like entertaining the idea, then I started doing synastry, and then I can see how like it can get quite unhealthy, because then there's only one partner who's just like super aware of all this dynamic. But then the other partner, it's kind of like, the other partner is just like not doing anything, or maybe it's also like, so like one partner is just like the Lulu in it, right? It's just like, oh, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But then, you know, so it's like, it can create some sort of like problems as well. So that's why I at some point in my practice, I was like, okay, if you want to do synastry reading, I allow it. I mean, ideally, I would want both to be there, but then if your partner is not co-sign, like I have clients like, yeah, my partner doesn't love this, but he's fine with me doing it. I'm like, okay, that's fine, as long as you ask consent from the other person, because a birth chart is kind of like your
It's very personal.
Yeah, it's like
it's
your
It's more than news.
It's something about me, you know, and actually this is also another debate in the astrology community. Not all of us. I mean, I'm pretty sure my chart is somewhere online. If you really want to dig it up, I'm pretty sure it's out there because I've posted it before. Like I've posted it as examples, you know. But like some astrologers are very, very secretive about their chart because this is where like astrology / magic comes in, or even because actually knowing your chart, they can also know your weakness. Yeah.
Oh my god, this is so funny because like the first time when I did it, I asked my mom for my birth time and she's like, I'm not telling you that because you're not telling other people that stuff. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And she was like, people can do stuff to you.
Yeah. So it's a very quite like a sacred thing to know your birth chart. Because once people know your chart, they know your weakness in a way. And so that's why it's a quite it's not superstitious, it's real. It's real to like have some sort of like control. It's not like you need to be super private about it because if you're private about it, you don't even know what the fuck it is. You know, just like you don't like. And then that when I first started astrology, my mom is really my mom is pretty spiritual, although she like prays and stuff, but she always believes in something more than she's a Pisces rising, so I'm not surprised. So that's why I'm like, yeah, you're a Pisces rising, you always believe in something bigger, like and so when I first started, I asked for my like birth certificate, and then I was like, I wanted everyone in my sibling. I just want to know, like, because I have so many siblings, I love discovering some sort of like pattern similar in the birth chart. So it's like, you know how like we inherit trauma from our family as well?
Yes.
Like generational trauma, all those things. You also inherit the trauma in your chart. Yeah, so it's like when I did that, my mom was like, why? Like, so my mom was like, janganlah, like, you know, it's like, what are you doing, you know? And I'm like, no, I just want to know. Like, I really want to know what's going on so that it helps me. And then she gave me almost everyone's. I just don't have my eldest sister, but because I think she's very far off from me. But yeah, I basically have all of my siblings, both of my parents, and it's very telling.
Right.
Like you can tell a lot about like, okay, we are all having this sort of like similar patterns of like Mars, or we can get very non-confrontational, but we can also get very petty. You know, it's like you can go to the extremes a bit. Like
Yeah, you know, that's really interesting because like, so like I also did something similar to my family. I was like, give me all your birth certificates. I'm gonna count like your charts. So I know all their charts.
I love that.
Yeah, and like the worst part is like I never thought this would happen to me, but like when I was very unhealed, I went through a relationship that was similar to my mom and my dad's, and I attracted someone who was like my dad, and I was like playing the role of my mom, and it was so weird because like it was the only situation that I was in where I realized that I started to become like my mother, and I was dealing with my father. And it was like kind of a mind fuck because I was like, why am I in this situation where I watch from my parents? Like, why did I attract this? But it's like, then I realized like, oh my God, I do have like issues, and I have like generational trauma and unhealed stuff that I picked up from their marriage subconsciously and attracted that kind of vibe to mine. And so I was like, oh my God, like, sometimes it's just really important to kind of like really do the work. I mean, obviously I didn't even know I was unhealed. Until like it happened, and it just like knocked some sense into me, and I was like, I need to stay away from that. But I also understand, but it gave me a whole new level of understanding towards them. Like I understand both sides now.
I know. It's like you hate it, but you're like, truly, like that's what made me feel very compassionate towards other people in a way too. I'm just like, fuck you, but then I see you. I see what you did, but like I'm just a fucking victim of this sort of like circumstances. I'm okay with it. Like now that I know this deeper truth, you know,
Like even though it was shitty and like I definitely did not want to go through that, but then I felt like what came out of it for me was that like I finally understood my parents.
Yeah,
And like
truly.
I cannot blame them for how they are.
Yeah.
You know, because I will always be like, can you guys just get a divorce or like
Oh my
just,
god.
like not be together? But then like I understand why they're still together and why they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And of course it's not my marriage to fix. But like it changed my relationship with them.
Truly. Yeah.
Astrology is amazing.
Yeah, no, for real.
Honestly.
And that's why I mean some astrologers are like literally certified sort of like therapists as well. So there are people who are therapists and healers who are like they do incorporate astrology. So I've consulted like I've had a therapist before this who was also an astrologer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was really good. It was really good because it helps to like so that I don't, because I'm an astrologer, so I'm like I don't want someone that I need to like explain so much about.
Yeah.
You know, so like basically like for me it's like I do love therapists which are, you know, like into the witchy stuff or like into whatever stuff, so that I don't have to do the mental work of like doing so much explaining, right? But yeah, so there are like certified therapists out there who also does astrology. Like I have a really good friend in New York, Kath. Like they would ask their clients like, oh, do you want me to look at your birth chart as part of the therapy session or something like that? Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I want a therapist like that.
I know, right? That would be so good. Yeah, I mean, I mean, even like in a session, I can see how like, okay, you might have like, because you can pick up a certain kind of signature when you look at a birth chart. You're like, oh, okay. This is perhaps a signature that could be a bit difficult for you to confront in life. So you might confront it more in private or something like that. Yeah.
How do you tell though, like the what do you call it? Picking up like the generational trauma in the chart. Is it like the north
There's
node?
usually sometimes a north node and a south node. Sometimes it's also like, for example, the fact that I collected all my family ones, then I know that there's a go ahead.
You guys keep talking.
So that I know that there's certain sort of like signature of our Mars can also. So for me, it's kind of like the condition of certain planets in the chart, right? For example, like my family has a lot of debilitated sun, meaning that they have like Aquarius or Libra suns, but then I have an exalted sun. So it's almost like, oh, okay, that's why I'm kind of like outlier a bit, because I have a very powerful chart with regards to this. So I am meant, so I see it sometimes as like, you're meant to sort of like break that pattern a bit by having something different. But then certain things are like more like, oh, you have it similar with your family. So once you have it similar with your family, chances are those are like a recurring theme that's going to be alive. But then in general, you can definitely just use the houses. So like the 8th house, the 8th house is considered, you know, it's a very difficult house in general. So you look at the 8th house, you look at the 4th house. So the 4th house would be, how is the home? Like, what's your conception of the home? And then you look at the 8th house. The 8th house has a lot to do with like your rebirth story, your trauma story, something that was hidden, ancestral baggage. You look at the 8th house. So those are more sort of like psychic houses, I call it.
That's interesting though.
So I would so you have to look at your houses to kind of like discover that you might have some sort of like, you know, those sort of like issues or things that need some sort of like attention. But it's very sensitive sometimes, like, you know, once you get into it, but I think it's like, that's why I think like doing consultation is also like an art, you know. It's like, okay, like it's not like I'm seeing something here, but then it's not like I can just say it. That's also like the fear of me, like, I always just pray before a session. I'm like, please make sure that this would be like the most helpful for the session at this moment. And sometimes like people cry in a session. I mean, like I cry, like people cry in my session. People laugh a lot sometimes too. It's like, it depends on wherever they are at, like, but whenever you touch like that part of your life, like, so that you just like touch it, like, okay, that part of life, and then you're like, you will able to like some sort of like extract a story from it. You're like, okay, this is very hard for you. I mean, for instance, like people who get cheated on, for example, right? And then I'm like, okay, I can see it in a chart, but how do I tell you that, like, hey, you have a pattern in your chart that will say you'll get cheated on? I mean,
you know, actually, I would want to hear it. I would definitely want to hear it.
So it's sort of like, okay, so maybe there's some sort of like configuration where the Mars is sort of like dominating the Venus, right? Because the Mars is like, so what is cheating? Cheating is like you're breaking an oath, right? So Mars is considered a planet that wants to break an oath. So usually whenever there's a Mars, like fuck up one of your planets, especially if it's a planet that's related to love, or like Jupiter, like it's usually like a planet that's good. So it's like you have some sort of like Mars configured to like some sort of Jupiter, and that Mars is really powerful, for example. And then, so that could signify like, okay, yeah, at some point it could either be that like you're gonna get cheated on, or maybe you'll have some sort of like something happen and you will just break up the relationship quite abruptly or something like that. So yeah. So the planets are correspondent. So we call it like planet, like everything in life you can attribute to a planet. Like for example, like the lights, right? Those are like the sun, or like the moon is the one that our faces are reflecting the light. So it would be the moon, So it's, you can correlate everything. So that's why you can see in a chart of like, okay, there's some sort of difficulty here, or like but that would be like the harsher one, right? But then I recently I was talking to a person, and I love that. I love it because it's like we are also at a place where things are getting more discussed and open, right? People who are in sort of like more polyamorous relationships, or like people are very non-conventional sort of like relationship. And I can see in that chat, I'll be like, okay, you have a monogamous partner. I'm like, that might not be the healthiest for you. How do you feel about that? I'll be my go-to question is like, okay, what's your relationship? I always use that word. That's what I say. I have one of my important placements is in Libra, so it's like I would always use this word whenever I do in a session. It's like, what is your relationship to monogamy? Or like, what is your relationship to this? And then like, you listen to your answer and like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Because like some charts are configured in such that they require more than one partner. That's also a thing.
Oh, so you can tell like relationship orientation.
You can tell almost everything. It's like all the flavors, all the spices of life. Chances are, like, once you sit with like a very trained astrologer to really look at your chart and kind of like have conversations with you, right? Like for example, for me, I have a Gemini in my 7th house, right? Because I told you all I'm a Sag rising, right? So I have Gemini 7th house. So I do require partners that has a lot of brain, right? But Gemini is also the sign of the twin. So sometimes people with a mutable 7th house, they might end up like having 2 partners at once sometimes. Or they might just, one of my first lovers was someone with a twin. But it's not like I love, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is all like, it's not I love both of those twins. I'm like, no. So it's like, so there's always gonna be like mirrors of like whatever is in the chart, right? So for example, because I have Gemini 7th house, the house of partnership, the house of like your partner, literally, there's always some sort of like a doubling effect to it. So on one hand, you might meet people who actually prefers having more than one partner, or you might just have a partner that you can get into some sort of like business with, or maybe your partner has a twin, or maybe because Mercury rules Gemini, so there's also maybe you have a very smart partner, like they are almost like a writer or something, and I do value someone who's like quite smart and things like that. But then that would be like the brighter side. But then the other like more difficult side, like, okay, you might have felt that your partners were lying, because Gemini also rules lying. That's why people hate Geminis, because they're like double faced, right? So it's so in my own partnerships, I've been lied to, and then and I feel like it's my Gemini 7th house. It's like,
damn.
They lie to me sometimes. They hide the truth, basically, right? They're not lying. They're just hiding the truth. So it's kind of like, those are basically like the correspondence of the planets. So, and sometimes you have it in a kind of like supportive place. Sometimes you have it in a not support. So you can also tell of like, okay, the expression of this place could be more difficult for you compared to the average person.
Right. Shit.
So
much to process.
Damn.
I'm processing everything, my houses, my placements, my north node, south node, everything.
Oh
my God.
Do you feel like you can guess our signs now?
Oh my god. No? Oh my god. Okay. So you definitely have a Cancer, right? Because you said that you are I think you are definitely a Scorpio still and Cancer.
Okay.
But you also have a fire sign, maybe, you know? So, I don't know, there's some sort of fire. Maybe even Sag. Sag, Scorpio, Cancer. That's my guess.
Oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Yours would be, I think you have an Aquarius. No?
Go on.
Oh my god. But I do feel there's a lunar quality to you still. So you might have some sort of like like Taurus. I would say there's a Taurus. And maybe even Pisces. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, you can reveal your now.
You're right. Sag Sun, Scorpio rising, Cancer moon.
Oh
Spot on. It was
That is
spot
crazy.
on.
You know, when you
Oh my
said that, I
God.
was like, no fucking way.
Yeah, I feel that you have Sag energy. I thought you were, I was like, either you were like Sag rising, but I was like, I don't think you're Sag rising. Now I feel like you're Scorpio rising. That's why I felt you were Scorpio first. Yeah. You do, like, I mean, you have tattoos, like, because of Mars. Mars people love to have tattoos in general. What about, do you have an Aquarius or air sign?
I don't have an Aquarius at all.
Oh my god, Libra. No?
I don't have any Libra placement.
Are you
I have
serious?
no air sign placements.
Oh my god, so
Yeah.
you have Taurus.
I don't okay, I have a Mars in Taurus.
Okay,
And
okay.
my Venus is in Pisces.
You have 5 Pisces. Yeah,
Yes.
you seem to have that Pisces. Like, but what's your sign?
I'm in Aries.
Oh my god! Stop! I've been fooled. Okay.
I'm in Aries Sun,
Okay.
Cancer rising.
Yeah,
and
okay,
a-
you do have Cancer.
Yeah.
I think I guess the
I
Cancer
think
the
the
first
Cancer
time.
rising is very telling.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have
Yeah, that's why I say you have a very lunar presence. Like
Yeah.
lunar is Cancer.
And I have a Scorpio moon.
Oh, Scorpio. Okay, no wonder y'all vibe in a way.
Yeah, this is like the opposite.
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Cancer moon,
Right.
Cancer rising, Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising.
I
Yeah,
see.
and we both fire signs. So.
yeah.
Oh my god, I love this. Yeah. Do you know mine?
Are you a
Okay.
Leo?
I feel like you have a Libra moon.
No,
Oh, Libra Venus.
no. I'm a okay. Yeah, you can try. You can try again. Give me the tree. Give me tree. Give me
Shit.
tree.
Okay, I think it's a Leo. I want to say.
Okay, wait, you don't have a Libra moon.
No, I don't have a Libra moon.
Shit.
Okay, you have a Leo. You have an Aquarius, and I want to say. The third one is kind of hard because I'm getting the vibes from these two the most, like a fixed sign vibe.
Really, I
Yeah.
love that.
I feel air though. I feel like you got air.
Yeah, you have like big air sign vibes.
Yeah. I really feel like the Libra is somewhere, right? Like it's not a moon.
I don't
I
know.
feel like you might be a Libra moon.
Just give me a tree. Just give me
Are you a
tree.
Scorpio?
No, I'm not Scorpio.
Damn. Okay. Okay, I don't know. That's my 3.
Okay.
Shit. Fuck. Shit. Oh, this is hard. I really feel like you have like air and fire.
Okay. All right.
Air and fire.
Okay.
Okay, when you say the Leo, I can see it a little bit. I feel like Leo and Libra. And you have the Sag rising.
Okay. I love that. Okay, so I am a Sag rising.
Yeah.
I'm an Aries too.
Oh my god, it's really hard to tell Aries signs.
It's kind of hard.
so hard.
It's actually really hard to
Get
tell an
so
Aries
shocked.
sign. I'm an actually Aries sign. That's why. So
my
I am
God.
not a Leo, but I do have a 9th house in Leo. So people sometimes think of me of as Leo. Because 9th house. Okay, so this is the thing. Sometimes your 9th house could also be the one that clouds your sort of like your image in a way as well. So you do pick up on that fire definitely. And air, yeah, I have a Gemini moon.
Wow.
I have a Gemini moon.
Oh my god, you have a lot of Gemini attraction then.
Yeah, but you're right in terms of my Libra. So this is where I have a very significant Libra. So sometimes people do see me as a Libra because actually the sign that's also important is actually the chart, the ascendant ruler, the ruler of the first house. So I have, because I'm a Sag rising, the ruler of my first house is Jupiter. So my Jupiter is in Libra. So yeah, actually like people do sometimes think of me of like as a very Libran person in a lot of ways. So I see that as like in terms of my own life. So for you, because you're Scorpio rising.
Cancer rising.
Oh, sorry, you're Cancer rising. So your moon becomes important. So your moon is in Scorpio, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So your Cancer rising. So your moon is in Scorpio. That is like an important placement as well. I mean, yours is funny. So people who are Leo rising Cancer rising is like, it's always just like a loop. You're like, oh my god, like where's my planet? It's still back to your sun, moon, rising, you know.
Right.
But you are a Scorpio rising. So where's your Mars?
My Mars is in Aquarius.
Okay, you do have an Aquarius. Okay, yeah. I was about to guess you have an Aquarius just now.
I think I have quite a number of Aquarius placements actually.
Oh, you do? So you're very airy?
I have like an Aquarius stellium, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Shit.
So it helps you a lot to like detach in a way to Aquarius. But then you have a Cancer moon. Oh my god, that's hard.
It's
Aquarius
hard.
and moon is like having Aquarius and then having Cancer moon placement. Oh.
No.
It's yeah. It's like when you get in your feelings that people don't know you.
Yeah.
It's like yeah.
Damn.
I'm surprised you guessed the Sag though. Because the Sag, a lot of people, I feel like not many people can really guess it because they always see the Scorpio first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I felt the Sag. I feel like you do have a fire sign. I know it's not gonna be Leo. I was about to guess Aries, but then I was like, I don't think so. So I don't think, because I was more like cancellation. I was like, I don't think you're a Leo. I don't think you're an Aries. And I was like, I guess the Sag.
But you know, like, I feel like fire signs, it's only easy to tell a Leo. Like,
That's true.
I can't tell, like, Aries or Sagittarius.
No, I know what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, usually you're right because Leos will always just go out and tell people they're Leo.
Yeah, they're just,
They don't bother hiding that shit.
And also and also sometimes how you know a Leo is actually how they like dress up their hair. So
Right.
usually people with a Leo placement, they would really like do something with their hair. Like there is some sort of like even though it's not a voluminous or whatever, they would like always pay attention to it. So I always notice a Leo whenever they're like, okay, yeah, you're a bit too obsessed with your hair. I think you're a Leo. Yeah, I mean, I have my niece is a Leo, and like I can see how like recently like my mom cut her hair, and then I was like, oh my god, like don't do that to a Leo. She's gonna hate it. Yeah, because it's like Leo is like the lion, right? And the lion,
Yeah.
the idea of their mane, so it's very important for lions. They do take care of their mane a lot.
That's
Yeah.
true, yeah. What is your Mercury, Venus, Mars,
So
Jupiter, Saturn?
my Mercury,
Just went through the whole fucking
just
planet.
put all my chart out. Yeah, I'm a Pisces Mercury actually.
Oh,
Yeah, so I have
okay.
Pisces Mercury, Aries Sun. My Aries Venus, I have a Venus in Aries as well.
Damn.
So yeah,
Wow.
Sun and Venus together. Mars, oh my Mars is so tender. My Mars is in Cancer. My Mars doesn't like to fight. Like my Mars just want to be at home and cook and things like that, which is like very antithetical for Mars. Like Mars is like a warrior. But then so I have a very problematic. Some people even argue that like yeah, like your Mars is not conditioned in a way. So that's how you do astrology. Like you look at the planet and its signification, and whether the sign would agree to it. And I think you're right. You also guessed me Aquarius, right? I do have an Aquarius Saturn. Yeah. So in traditional astrology, we look at Saturn, we look at Jupiter. So I do have an air. Like the reason why I have a very strong air sign, because technically I have like we call it like a grand air trine. Because I have a Jupiter in Libra, I have Aquarius Saturn, and I have Gemini Moon. So I create like some sort of like a triangle.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's like, so that's why I, like whenever I get into very much like talking to people, like, people will be like, yeah, you definitely have an air sign.
Yeah, you do.
But I sometimes hide the Gemini so well. Especially because Gemini is most hated.
I was saying at the start of the episode, fuck Geminis, fuck
Yeah, fuck
Geminis.
Gemini.
That's why I'm like, okay, I love this already.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but yeah, so I have my Gemini is in my 7th house, so it's like, yeah, so I do, yeah, so I do attract also Geminis in my life usually. So you're Scorpio rising,
Yeah.
so your 7th house will be Taurus.
Yes.
So people who are like Venusian would be good for you. So people who loves art or people who appreciate. So you should look at your Venus placement if you want to figure out in terms of like what qualities of my partner should have or what am I generally attracted to.
Yo, your Venus is in Libra.
Yeah, my Venus is in Libra.
Oh my god, very good. That's a nice Venus.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like Venus in Libra is considered like the home of Venus. So it's like you do have a very pretty partner, maybe. Like you do appreciate the aesthetics of your partnerships. Like that is something.
the aesthetics of my partnership, as in how well we look together or how
well
good,
that person is, like how well your partner dress, or like Venus in Libra would be like you would attract partners who are also like, it's also quite airy, so it's like there's very like intellectual, that they could be very smart, they could be well put together in some way, they could be like an artist or like creative in the arts way, but like it's very much like, you know, Venus in Libra is a place of Venus, meaning that Libra appreciates some sort of like balance, you know, your partner like maybe there's also like a sense of symmetry to who they are, like oh my god, they look you know, it's like so yeah, it's very aesthetic sort of like oriented. Yeah.
So basically I'm shallow.
Yeah. No, it's just what you're attracted to, right? That's your 7th house, right? So yeah. So that would be so yours would be like, you're a Cancer rising.
Yeah.
So yours would be Capricorn.
Unfortunately.
But then you should look at your Saturn.
My Saturn is in Aries.
Okay, so you should look at your Saturn in Aries. So you do, oh my god, okay, Saturn struggle a bit in Aries. So you're not in a relationship right now? Are you?
No.
Okay.
I've been celibate for a year.
Oh my god. Yeah. Okay, usually Saturn in Aries, people with Saturn rule 7th house, usually will find their partner closer to their Saturn return. So until closer to your Saturn return, your late 20s, that's the time you'll find your partner.
Damn.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, because certain placement in the chart, it's kind of like it takes a while for it to mature, especially the Saturnian part of life. And Saturn in Aries quite struggle a bit, because I think sometimes it'll be like you might get okay. Saturn in Aries, like you love the pioneering spirit of a person, maybe like you do appreciate, you do have Sun in Aries too, right? So you have Sun Saturn together. So no wonder you said that you attract relationship that which was like your dad.
Yeah, you know what's the worst part?
Because Saturn is the daddy in the in the schema, like.
Oh my god,
yeah,
my dad's an Aries.
Yeah. So yeah,
Dad.
really, your dad is an Aries?
He's an
Oh
Aries,
wow. So usually, and because you're a Cancer, right? So you're becoming the mom. The moon is the mother, and the Saturn is kind of like the father sometimes. It depends. It's interchangeable. For some people, sometimes the sun is more like the dad. Some people's chart some people, the Mars is more like the dad. My chart is literally, my dad is an Aquarius. I have an Aquarius Saturn. Some people like, sometimes the position of the planet or something like that. But yeah, the moon or Venus usually representing the mother.
Oh my god, my mom and I share the same moon.
Oh my god. Yeah, see?
So it's like, I think I have all the issues. But
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. So yeah, but then for you, relationships would definitely be, you do need someone who's like, okay, so this is where Saturn Aries gets quite tricky. I think you do need someone that is like very spirited, but also like willing to be patient as well. It's like there's a sort of like push and pull there, because Saturn doesn't do so well in the Aries, right? It wants things fast, right? So you might end up like getting partnership where things just like from 0 to like 100. And then it disappear, right? Because Saturn in Aries, there could be some sort of like patterns where there is a lack of accountability in the partner themselves or something like that. Or maybe it's just like, because Aries is like a rush planet, but Saturn wants it slow. So it's like there's always this sort of like tension that goes on. Yeah.
You know, you were mentioning something about the 8th house just now. It doesn't help that my Venus is in my 8th house.
Oh my god, your Venus in Aquarius?
Pisces.
Oh my, okay, but that will save you. I love Venus in Pisces.
That will save me.
Okay, 8th house. Okay, this is where things are. Obviously, you're looking at the chart is more important, but like 8th house is a place where if you get a benefic there, it might be your savior, some sort.
What's a benefic?
Benefic is like Jupiter or Saturn. Oh no, sorry, Jupiter or Venus.
Okay.
So those are the planet that gives you the good stuff. So having Venus in the 8th, it's like going in the deep, but at the same time, you will feel so like, I feel like maybe there's something about part of your processing of like the more difficult parts of life would definitely involve Venus, right? But Venus in Pisces is considered exalted. So it's kind of like, maybe there's some sort of like, whatever you're fantasizing, it's not like 100% the Lulu, you know?
Damn.
That's
So
great,
it's like-
though. That's great, though.
There is a healing that comes with Venus and Pisces. It's kind of like whenever you go into love, you do have some sort of like idealization a bit, right? Because
yeah.
Venus is considered like the highest place of Venus can be is actually in Pisces. It's considered exalted. So
Oh my
if
God.
your love is in the heaven, you need to go to hell to find it as well.
I'll be there. I'll be fucking there.
You'll be there. So yeah, so sometimes when people, okay, so this is where people with like exalted placement, they tend to go to the extremes a bit because it's kind of like, it's kind of like, oh my God, that part of life is difficult, but maybe because my standards is a bit different than the normal person, right? And I might need to go through certain things in life before I get it, sort of thing. So yeah. So I love having an exalted Venus though.
Damn, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
You might find a partner that's also like from a different culture.
Oh.
Oh.
I
don't
wonder
wanna
if that's
belong
gonna
to
be. I wonder if that's gonna be your story.
I don't know too, but my ex was from a different culture.
Okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, but like Venus and Pisces usually would find some sort of like partners which are from like sort of like a different culture. But then I can see how like Venus and Pisces it can get so beautiful, but it can also get just crushed just like that.
Real story of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's still a benefic. So sometimes whenever there's people have difficult placement, I love that you both have you both have very good Venuses. I love that, and you
I
both
love
are
that
in
for
the
us.
creative field or things like that too, or
I'm in the creative field.
Okay.
You are.
I'm just in corporate.
okay, all right, but maybe that's because like it depends on the other arrangement of the chart. But yeah, but like usually people with like, but maybe people with like exalted or domicile Venus, so Venus in Libra or Venus in Taurus is considered domicile. So it's considered okay, Venus is at home. I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna perform well. So, but then it can also planets which are in domicile. It creates a natural responsibility in that planet. So it's like not to say that it's gonna be easy. It's more about like, okay, you might find people are like your partner is accountable for what they're doing, but whenever you have planets which is exalted, it can go to the extremes a bit. Yeah. I have a Venus in Aries, so that's the opposite of Libra. So that kind of like sometimes work against my favor because like I'm very impatient sometimes, right? And my love life could also get very much like I can't control myself, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like so that's where like Libra Venus are very aware of like the give and take. Venus in Scorpio or Venus in Aries people, they're much like for example, Venus in Scorpio probably experience some sort of like power play in the relationship that doesn't feel so good, right? Like the partner would have some sort of advantage over them. Venus in Aries would sometimes just be that like it could be like a very unrequited sort of love sometimes part of your experience. But then at the end of the day, I'm not saying that all of them are fucked. Like again, you have to look at where it is, you know, it's like sometimes people have Venus in Aries, but other planets are helping to support that Venus. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you have a very difficult placement, but it seems to work out easily for you because there is a sort of like, maybe Jupiter is looking at the Venus or maybe the moon is helping that Venus out. It's like, all right, like you still have a soft landing on me whenever shit happens, you know? Yeah. So you have to look at the chart in totality. Yeah. But usually the Venus would, in general, if I want to like, even I'm doing my love readings and stuff, like I will always just look at that Venus and I'm like, all right, this will, generally it will always describe what you value, but also like it would also describe the quality of the relationship. Especially if you're younger, it's like people will have all the shitty experience of their Venus, usually between like, you know, their teenagers and like their 20s, before their Saturn return.
Oh.
After their Saturn return, if they still struggle, they need to get a reading. You know, it's just more about like, so the idea is that like in astrology, I love astrologers because we're pretty forgiving in terms of our timing. We actually consider adulthood after 30, after your Saturn return. That's very good, right? It's like, I mean, we have to contend with like I'm a legal year, I'm adult already, right? But actually, astrology really focus on the maturation of the Saturn. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, after your Saturn matures, after 30 years old, I mean, some people might not even have a privilege of coming to a 30 years old, but after you're 30 or 31, 32, depends, or some people get it 29 or 28. It depends on the sign, the Saturn sign, or the Saturn sign / transit. After that age is usually when like all planets in the chart sort of like matures. So it's kind of like whatever you do after this, it's kind of like on you. So it's just that, right? It's like because Saturn is like the sort of like the final lessons that you have to know about about yourself. Yeah. So that's why people always have some sort of like 30s. In their 30s, they usually do go through like a very major shift in their life. Yeah. That's why I believe that you're gonna have a partner by your closer to your Saturn return.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
Like, right now, it just seems ass.
Right now, you just have like maybe someone who's like too childish, too immature. You do need a maturity in your partnership. So
yeah. I also have a feeling, like I just have a feeling it's just gonna be there.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be like right now.
Yeah. I mean, I do that. I mean, that happens a lot in my clients where I tell them that like, oh yeah, I have a feeling that you're gonna get married in 3 years, and they're like, oh wow, that's what I'm planning, and that's what I've been feeling, but I don't have a potential. Okay, this I'm gonna put on record. I feel that I'm gonna get married in 2028.
Damn.
It's gonna be a destination wedding. Manifesting. Yeah, but yeah, I was looking at my chart and then I was like, I have because I mean, marriage is a construct, whatever. I don't even think it's gonna be like a married. I don't know what it is, but I just know that like my long-term partner, one of the most important long-term partnership will happen in 2028. So that's me holding on to my own predictions. I'm always scared of it because I'm like, is this gonna happen? I feel like it is. I was like looking at different charts and trying to figure it out. I'm already looking at marriage chart. As in like, so, okay, this is another branch of astrology I did not tell y'all. It's called electional astrology. It's where you know how people say like, even in Chinese culture, in Indian cultures, they do this where like, they look at the date, right? And then they kind of like, oh, is that a good date or not, right? It's actually also based on astrology. So electional astrology is a branch of astrology where if you want to do something new, you can also consult an astrologer to get an electional chart to get what you want. But like, so this is where electional is funny because it's like, you can get the best chart in the world, but if it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you, But then at least you tried, right? Because I mean, this is a proven method. When I was in grad school, I only applied to one internship because there's only one that I want. And I did electional astrology on it. I paid my friend. I was like, give me the best time. You look at my chart. You look at the time when this is the application deadline. Like, when should I send this application in? And my friend gave me this particular time. Like, okay, this is literally just like, there's only like a few minutes window. Like 5 minutes window is like, do it during this 5 minutes. And I'm like, all right, I send it during that 5 minutes. And then I literally did not worry at all for 1 month until they got back to me. I was just like, I'm not gonna apply to anything else. I'm also like a bit like that. That's like knowing. I feel like I'm gonna get this one. Like I did electional astrology with it. Like it's gonna be fine, and it did. And then it's like I got the interviews for it, and then it ended up like it was such a blessed chart to the point where I only went for it was like a graduate internship. I only went a few months, but then they converted me to become like a fellowship. So I was interning with them, but it was a paid kind of like attachment thing. It's like a part-time-ish. Even when I was in school, I ended up doing it like for almost 8 months.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God. And I knew there was something up because I was like, I had a feeling, I was like, oh my God, like according to my chart, I just have a feeling that this will be extended. And it was true because like towards like the last month of it, my boss was like, oh, okay, do you want to like potentially extend this beyond like, I know you have a semester going on, but we can work something out. It can be more like project based or something like that. So yeah, that's another branch of astrology I forgot to tell. Yeah.
There's so many
Interesting.
things.
Yeah, but I've also had moments where I failed. But then yeah.
But like the moments where you succeeded, like for example the wallet and
Yeah.
your internship,
Yeah.
those were like phenomenal.
I know. You just feel
Yeah.
so good about it.
For
Yeah. 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 So election is like is when you want to do something. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
That's all.
It's such a useful tool, astrology.
Yeah.
It is. It's just a matter of like whether you learn deeply about it. I mean, I have a friend online, Kira. She just released a guidebook on electional astrology where she finds the time for you to have sex
Damn.
I'm gonna do that.
so that you can have the best sex in your life.
Damn.
So you know how sometimes you have sex and you're like, oh my god, this is not so good. And maybe that's because of the transit, or maybe because you just choose a very bad time.
Oh.
Yeah, and you know how sometimes for instance, I can see it happening whenever, this is so funny because I live with my parents now for a bit just to help them, right? And my mom cooks, right? And I kind of just know whenever, like, even though she follows the same recipe, suddenly there's something off. And I always look at the stars that day. I'm like, oh yeah, the moon is not in the best condition. Like, suddenly, like, it's too salty, or suddenly like if she bakes something and then like the thing didn't really rise, there's some sort of some shit fuck up the thing, right? And I was like, that's electional astrology, like, because maybe there's something, the timing that you started that activity was not the best.
Yeah, I believe that because like even sometimes when you masturbate, like even if you're so feeling it, the orgasm is just meh. Like sometimes, like even if I'm really feeling it, it's meh. But I'm like, but I'm really feeling it. Why is it not mind blowing? Like, I thought like, okay, the causation would be like, if I'm horny, then the orgasm is gonna be good. But it's not always like that.
Yeah. I've definitely timed my like certain things, like the sex part of life, and I can see the difference.
I genuinely think there's something about that.
It's like sometimes I've had like a very bad sex, for example. I'm like looking at the chart, I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen. Like there was a moment where I was like, I don't think that was part of the agreement, but I guess like I was flexible enough. But then I was like, oh, I look at the chart, I'm like, oh, I can see why there's some sort of like feet things going on.
Oh my god.
Because it's like, okay, for example, this is such a funny one. So Pisces is also related to feet.
Oh, wait, I've heard of that because the Aries is the head, right?
Yeah, so actually, it's actually in medical astrology. Okay, that's also another thing. There's a thing called medical astrology too. So people who are involved in like herbalism, and they can give you concoction. And then how like we say that like, okay, if your body is certain type of way, you need certain remedies, right? So medical astrology is kind of like that. Like maybe if you're low in blood, maybe you have Mars problem, and then you need to eat iron or something like that, right? So medical astrology is according to the body parts. Yeah. So I've had time when I was like, oh, I did not expecting some sort of like feet stuff going on. But then I look at the chart, I'm like, oh yeah, there's some sort of Pisces activation.
Damn! Oh my god.
So it's also like, I just laugh it off because I'm like, I did not expect it. But then now I'm looking at the chart when I was initiating it, then there was some sort of like a Piscean story to it.
Wait, which one is the booty hole?
I mean, that would naturally be like Scorpio or Libra or something like that. Or Sag. So there'll be Scorpio it's between Libra or Scorpio or Sag. I mean, like, ties are very like Sag.
Okay.
So if people are into like, for example, if people are into like more BDSM stuff, there's usually something around their Saturn. Like they look at their Saturn or like Capricorn or Aquarius. There's usually like, because Saturn is a planet that loves to restrict. So it's like there's a tension of restriction. So that could also be about like, that's why astrology can even tell what you enjoy in sex, right? It's like, I have Mars in Cancer, like, I mean, like I do have Venus in Aries, like I kind of sometimes, I do appreciate sometimes it's just like, just make it quick, I don't find. But like my Mars in Cancer will like, but I want it to be emotional. I want you to like it really like, it's in a very Cancerian way, right? It's like, breed me, baby, you know? It's like I want to be, you know, it's like bred, and like, it's like, that's very much Cancerian, because Cancerian is like lunar, it's like a very receptive. It wants like, but then, and then like, someone with a more like Taurus would be like, oh yeah, like, as long as it feels good, like I love it. You know, it's like, it has like, maybe Taurus sometimes loves a little bit of like foreplay and stuff like that. Like, they can't just like get into it instantly. So that, so sometimes your Venus or like your configuration in your chart can tells a lot what kind of sex do you appreciate.
Oh.
Yeah, and then some people will love like a little bit like a role play or whatever, right? And that could be some sort of like, it could be Mercury affecting it, or maybe like, because it's kind of like you're playing something else, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, this is so true because like, okay, so I have an Aries stellium, and like, I love head massages.
Oh yeah!
Like,
oh my god! Yes, like you get
Right, it's like the best one. Like the other, whenever I get massages elsewhere, I'm just like, that's okay. That's just a massage. But the head one, it's like, I don't know, it's orgasmic.
Oh my god, I love that.
Think about it, that's so different. And I've always told people, I'm like, if you can massage my head, I'm all yours. Like, if you give me a good head massage.
We got the recipe. Yeah.
So, and like, it wasn't until, you know, I learned about the body placements thing, and I was like, wait, that makes sense why I love to be touched in my head so much.
Yeah.
It's where I feel most wow.
Yeah, because you feel very like stimulated there in a lot of ways. Yeah. So it's kind of like your stimulation point as well. Yeah. So.
Damn.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there is even a book, if I'm not mistaken, called like Sextrology or something like that.
Sextrology.
I think so, but like, it's more about like sex and astrology, sort of like merging. Yeah, I haven't gone deep into it, but like, because I'm very aware of the medical part of it, if like for example, I'm a Gemini moon, I can get really very attracted to someone's hands. Like, I can just look at a hand, I'm like, that's a hot hand. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like, it's unexplainable. It doesn't mean that they have to be like muscular or whatever. It's just like, there's something that you appreciate about like, hey, that's a very beautiful hand. Yeah. Or like, I can also get very turned off by a hand. It's like, I'm like looking at a hand, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so yeah. So it can just like really experience you like almost like an immediate thing that you would like look at. Yeah, and it also makes me love my body even more too in a lot of ways. Like, I have a very big thighs, and I was like struggling with it at some point because I was like, oh my god, like I have big thighs. It's just like matter of fact of existence and genetics and things like that, right? But apparently, I mean, it is very genetic in my family. But at the same time, I'm like, but that's Jupiter, and I have Jupiter in Libra, which is Libra is literally the part of like here part. And then I was like, oh my god, okay, that's like the biggest part of my body, and I'm also ruled by Jupiter. So, and then it's kind of like, and actually someone with a Venus in Sagittarius would really love someone with like a solid thigh, because it's kind of like, oh, they love someone with like a horse thigh or something like that, right? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, now I'm like, oh my god, yeah, there are people out, like, it's just because I see things through my own chart that I think that other people won't value it. But then actually other people actually value it because they see it through their own charts as well.
Right, yeah.
Right? You know how some people will be like, oh yeah, I don't really care about their face. Or like, but some people really do care about their face. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so yeah, that's like a very interesting thing about astrology is in terms of like acceptance about your own bodily.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. That's why I was able to guess you have Scorpio, because you have like a lot of tattoos. So usually people with like Scorpionic or a very Mars, even Aries rising people, usually they would have some sort of like markings in their body because they are Mars. Mars wants to have experienced some sort of pain for them to feel like they've gone through something.
Oh, damn.
So that's kind of like the warrior's signature in their chart. And that's why I knew that I was like, you definitely have a Scorpio rising or sun. Yeah. Or that's why my guess was also Aries, because I was like, oh yeah, you feel there's a Martian there. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's how I know you are very lunar too. Because you have like such a beautiful face.
Thank cute.
Yeah, and it's got usually like people with a very full face, and it's like the moon. Like, so yeah, your face is really like lunar.
Moon vibes.
The moon vibes, like, I was like,
Moon
you have,
girl.
that's why I was like, you have a lunar
Yeah.
rising. I was like, sometimes I've even gotten it wrong for some people. They're like, oh yeah, I don't have any Cancer, and I was like, but where is your moon placement? And then it turns out their moon is actually in their ascendant or something like that.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, people always get my rising right.
Yeah.
I think it's the sun and the moon that they struggle with, which I understand because my rising is so drastic
Yeah.
from my sun and my moon.
Yeah.
My sun and my moon are like Mars. So I feel like it's really hard to tell because like my rising is very telling.
Yeah, your rising is so telling. You do have a very lunar
I
vibe.
relate to that.
Yeah.
I can definitely
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. So that was like a immediate thing. I was like, yeah, you definitely have a Cancer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's dope.
What about the gay thing?
What
The
about-
gay chart.
Wait, show me your chart. Do you have
Hold on.
it?
Yes,
Hold on,
I have
hold on.
it,
Let
but on
me, like-
CoStar.
Okay, no, but I can still have it. I mean, I can still have a look at it.
Okay,
Let
okay.
me just pause.
But anyway, the gay thing is super important.
The gay thing is super important. We need
Is it
to-
recording?
Yes, it's recording.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up my CoStar chart.